I checked the calendar today and saw that one of my stories, which I have been drafting and redrafting off and on, has been in progress for, wait for it, 28 years. James Joyce wrote Finnegan's Wake, a notoriously convoluted tome of impenetrable nonsense, clocking in at 219,000 words, with whole book clubs spending 28 years just reading it. Finnegan's Wake only took 17 years to write. To be clear, my story is not Finnegan's Wake. It is barely 2,000 words. So let's be real for a second. The hell am I doing? Either the story is worth telling or it goes in the bin. Seriously, the more I mull it over, the angrier I get. What in all of creation am I waiting for? I've been approaching this story like it is a mystical activity, divining secrets of the stars in the form of discrete crystalline language, prisms of knowledge and wonder, as if precise word order could decode the heavens and reveal the mind of God. This position is indefensible, absurd, and it ends today. Let's call this what it is. No sugarcoating, no BS. This approach is one of my old bad habits. An oldie but goodie from half a life ago. I've learned a lot since my 20s, and I'm done keeping it on life support. You may have some of your own bad habits lurking under the floorboards of your work. Let's take a moment to identify how to break terrible habits we spot in our process. When we identify a writing habit as bad, the first thing we must do, which helps break the cycle and start fresh, is name the problem. Think of it like shining a spotlight on the problem, so you can see it clearly for what it is. In my case, I would say the problem I am spotlighting is I cared more about the turn of phrase than about what the phrase was trying to say. Feels good to get that off my chest, even though it is a bit embarrassing. Next, explore the problem fully so you can describe to yourself what makes the habit bad and why it needs to change. So again, in my case, a lot of the feedback I received in my 20s was that my language was lush, evocative, beautiful, descriptive, etc., but my characters were not very interesting. Now, if I were writing poetry, maybe that's not a bad habit at all. Maybe it's a strength. But in fiction, it's a liability. So I take that observation and examine it, rolling it around in my mind to see if I can get at why the bad habit feels comfortable, why I lean on it at all. I used to walk along the levee behind school, looking over the lake on one side and the campus on the other. The wind was loud up there, and aside from a few joggers, I was alone with my thoughts. I would spend an hour or more sweating in the harsh sunlight, just talking through what I was having trouble with, what challenge or obstacle life had placed in front of me, and how I would overcome it. The walking made the talking more productive. I recognized that when I'm sitting alone in a quiet room, I can't solve problems the way I can when I'm up and moving. There is science behind it, but in my 20s, I just stumbled into the fact that if I was anxious, I needed to get up and get moving. After an hour of walk and talk, I arrive at a conclusion. When I first started writing fiction, meaning was secondary to rhythm. Last I checked, that describes pop music, not serious literature. On reflection, I see it also as a clear metaphor for my progression as a writer. At that point, I was still learning myself, let alone other people. Readers could quickly tell whether a conflict or a character was anchored to reality or created from nothing. However, I had read a lot of books, and I have a good lyrical ear, so I focused on sounding like literature. Maybe it's like a child mimicking their parents, repeating phrases without understanding their meaning. Back then, I was unwilling to be vulnerable and tell a true-to-life story. So I did the next best thing. I tried to sound like a writer. Today, I see clearly why this needs to change. The good news is I can break this bad habit. I don't need it anymore. I can tell interesting stories. I can write people. I have something to say. That leads us to the final step, replacing the bad habit with a new and, we hope, better habit. In revisiting this ancient story, for what I hope is the last time, I am choosing to return to step 1 of our 9-step process and draft something new. I'm also giving myself a deadline to rough out this new draft. If nothing good arises, that means I can put this one to bed for good. My new habit is to trust the roughing out process and stress less about the turns of phrase. Searching for new ideas, examining people, and the stressful situations they can get into. That is more interesting than just pretty language. Remember, no draft is truly wasted. Some stories are just for us, like a winding path up the mountain. They may seem to go nowhere, but they often teach us something essential we can use on the next climb. See you next week. Start writing.